Hello and welcome to this is my top 10 albums of the year. Um to start, I am sorry about the video quality because I do not have a very good webcam. Maybe one day I'll get one, but it's gonna be like very very framey. It's the best I could do for now. Unless I use my phone, but I didn't want to go with that, so we're using the webcam today. So to start out, if you're new to me and what I record, I listen to mostly metal. So obviously this list is gonna be mostly metal. There's one non-metal album on here because it was just so good that I had to put it up there. So so anyway, without further ado, let's get right into it. So at my number 10, it's Crepuscule Natura by Uada. They are a they're like a more modern. They're like one of the best, if not the best, modern melodic black metal bands. And of course, like hearing that they were going to like release a new album, I was excited to hear because they're pretty good. And I just want to know if they like could outdo themselves. And I think they created one of, if not their best album. I don't think it's their best album, um, personally. And they create like super melodic and haunting melodies that soar throughout this album. They really catch me kind of like how Dissection does with their very riffy mellow black with also like an atmosphere, but they're not like fully relying on an atmosphere. And like, cause like there's some like melodic black metal that I've heard this year that relied too much on atmosphere and not enough substance for me to like catch on to it. Um, and they also, this isn't new to them, but they also like incorporate like death growls and not just also like um standard black metal vocals. Um, and and the production on this one is more or less the same when it comes to like their previous releases. It's not anything different. It's not like it's not like mind-boggling or whatever, or like mind blowing, I should say. And the only negative thing I could say about this album is that the closing track, Through the Wax and Through the Wane, some places it kind of drags. But other than that, it's a great album. My favorite track is probably the title track, and it's a very good album and deserves to be number 10 on my spot in my list. And at number 9 we have Imperi Hora by Asinhell. And apparently the title of this album means ungodly hour in Latin, which is, I thought that was pretty cool. And if you didn't know, this band was recently formed by the frontman and rhythm guitarist for Volbeat, Michael Poulsen. He used to be in a death metal band in the 90s, called Dominus. And I've always wondered what it would be like if he went back to his roots and started like playing death metal again, because he talks about death metal a lot in his interviews. Um, he wears his battle jacket out when he's playing Volbeat shows. So when I heard that he was back into like he was creating a a new band and he's releasing a new album with uh, that's death metal, I obviously was like excited because I like Volbeat and I like Dominus and I wanted to see where this went. Um, so when it dropped, I was not disappointed. No, it's pretty very solid death metal. To start out, the most of the album reminds me of Swedish death metal, which makes sense because Michael is a huge like Grave fan, like the band Grave. Um, and Fall of a Loyal Warrior. However, it reminds me directly off of like something like from Spiritual Healing, especially like those harmonies and like those licks he does with his guitar lines. And what I like about a lot about this album is the drum sound. The bass drum sounds so meaty and punchy, like you're punching a fucking punching bag. The riffs are also good on here too, which I'm pretty excited to see what the future holds for like this band, because I feel like Michael can make a lot better riffs. I'm not saying none of the riffs on here are bad. I'm just saying that I have a feeling that he's holding back a little bit, but I feel like there's a lot more that he has in store because it's been a long time since he played this type of music. So I have a feeling like he was just so excited that um that he just wrote whatever came to his mind. But yeah, and I'm not sure what the closing track to be. I'm not gonna even try to pronounce it because it's in Danish. But it sounds like they got someone's daughter on the mic for like 9 seconds and like played random stuff. I think it's kind of funny. I don't think it really hinders the album anyway. It's like short and it's kind of funny. Um, I also like how the guitar sounds. It sounds really big and fat and meaty, and the vocals literally scream like Dismember to me. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with this album, and I can't wait to see where this band goes and where Michael goes in his return to death metal. My favorite track is probably Wolfpack Laws. And number 8, this is the only non-metal album on my top 10 list. It's The Incomplete Truth by Randolph and Mortimer. Thank the Lord, holy God. This, I've been waiting to hear like an electronic, like industrial album, like a modern one that's actually this good and captivates me this much. Um, it really scratches that itch of what Skinny Puppy does for me when it comes to like EDM and industrial. When I heard this, I was like, holy God. Is it groundbreaking? No, but good Lord. it's I enjoyed it so much. The synths, the samples, and the vocals, great. This reminds me of early Skinny Puppy, especially like the drum sound, like that snappy sounding drum. The title track is pretty catchy, and uses like their samples as to advantage for that catchiness. It's nothing really deep to get into about this release. Really, it's just a very good and solid. I love it. It's great. So if you like shit like Skinny Puppy and like some like industrial electronic stuff, check this out. It's pretty great. And yeah, my favorite track is the title track. Okay, so number 7 we have Make Them Beg for Death by Dying Fetus. Dying Fetus are one of those death metal bands that are very consistent. They've been throughout the years. They've only had a couple meh albums in my opinion. So as time went on, they've gotten better and better, and or at least like more like consistent with each album they released. And this is no exception. This is a very solid album. Very good. The production on this one is kind of raw, but also polished, if that makes sense. Like it works. It works with their like style of like techie brutal death metal. The vocals are as good as they've been. And the second, I think they have 2 vocalists. The second vocalist sounds like John on here, like the main like vocalist. And the slamming riffs are just so good. They do their job of making me want to punch a wall, like some dude named Kyle that drinks like a fucking bunch of like Monster Energy drinks. Very fun and brutal listen throughout the album. My only complaint is I didn't really care for, I think it's called Undulting Carnage. Sorry if I mispronounced that, because I can't read sometimes. Even though it's an intense song, I don't really cared for the riffs that much. In that song compared to the other songs on here. Still a good song though, but just not my favorite. My favorite is probably Unbridled Fury. It has a very fun main riff and also the slams. Punch him in the face. Number 6 is Terrasite by Cattle Decapitation. Now, I'm going to be saying a couple things here that a couple people who's going to watch this video may be triggered about. Sorry. So, Cattle Decap nowadays, when you hear that name, you usually get a quality release like Monolith, the Extinction, Death Atlas. You get the point. Like, they're quality releases. They're really good. Very influential band. Not the only death metal, but to an extent like deathcore too. I've seen some vocalists that take like influence from Travis's vocals. And I knew this album was gonna be good too because of the singles, like well, we eat our young. I think. Sorry, I don't have I don't have all the titles memorized. I think it's we eat our young is it used to be my favorite off this. In my opinion, this album is better than Death Atlas because it's a lot less like a Hollywood movie because there are like interludes on Death Atlas that make me think I'm listening to like a Hollywood like movie. Like that's like the downside of Death Atlas. I think Death Atlas is still a great album. It's just I think they could have done without that, but this isn't about Death Atlas. I'm talking about Terrasite. I think like a quote unquote clean vocals, like the Goblin vocals, do a lot better job here of like making you feel like anxiety, like on a like in the world is coming. I can't talk. Sorry. In the world it will go on without you. Like for example, the lyrics, every human's bed is made, nightmares start when you awake, and this world will go on without you. Like just the idea of like once you pass, everyone will continue living, and you are just 6 feet under, not existing on this planet anymore. I think it's terrifying. But that's what Count Decap does. He likes to terrify you about reality. Thanks, Travis. As usual, Count Decap has very like like techie guitar lines, and often, and on this one, very melodic like guitar leads too. Sometimes I do wish they would try a different guitar tone because I feel like their guitar tone gets kind of, kind of samey, and like they've used it since like what 2012. Try something different. And let's see, Just Another Body is also a great song off of here. Like it starts with a very mellow piano intro that goes into like a very atmospheric section, and they really drag out the emotion in the listener with in the second half with the clean vocals, and just the lyrics. Like, geez. And my favorite track, my least favorite track is probably it's probably The Storm Upstairs. It's not bad. It just doesn't captivate me like the rest of the songs off this album. My favorite track is definitely "In the World Will Go On Without You," and that brings us to number 5, our top 5, and this is "Utopia" by Kruelty. So before I start talking about this, I was very, like disappointed by some of the deathcore releases this year because they were just either like they were just boring or they're straight up bad. Like I was, no. So when I was giving up on deathcore releases for the year, I was recommended this. And at first I thought it was just like just like a death metal release, but this is like a different. This is like a very old style of deathcore, and I was taken by massive surprise when I heard this. This is so fucking good. They really ride off the death metal influence on this, which I love when deathcore does that. Like they don't forget the death metal influence because when they do that, it just sounds very boring to me. And Japanese metal really doesn't fail to amaze me. The guitar tone here is chunky, and the grooves are just unbeatable. And this is what really sells me on it. Every other riff there is an unrelenting groove, and it's great. The vocalist sings in Japanese in some songs, and I think that's pretty cool, honestly. Nothing much to add besides that this album is an unrelenting groove machine, and definitely a must listen if you have not heard it. I can't really choose a favorite track off of this because every track is just as good as the other. Okay, at number 4 we have Superliminal by Nothingness. This one is a bit of an obscure pick to some who don't really bother looking for like new like music or death metal um, comes out. But this one clicked as soon as I heard it to me. It kind of reminds me of Incantation because it gets super doomy and like loomy sometimes. If that makes like a looming atmosphere, like very gross. Um, and the album cover also drew me to it because of how nasty and gross it looks. The riffs are also so goddamn good, and it also isn't afraid to get melodic at times, which is I love. I love it. I love it. Like Beacon of Loss caught me off guard when I heard it because it is slow and melodic. It reminds me of like the title track from The Rack by Asphyx, slow, doomy, and melodic. Um, this album is just full of like heavy, awesome riffs, I love, and which is why I put it above some of the more popular releases on this list. I just like the riffs a lot on this album more. I like to also mention that this album kind of incorporates like elements of black metal, especially on the song "Temple of Broken Swords," which is also a highlight off this album. And if you couldn't tell already, my favorite track off of this is "Beacon of Loss." And at number 3, we have "Vast Reaches Unclaimed" by Majesties. So if you know me like at all or watch some of my videos, you know that I am a sucker for 90s melodic death metal. This was once my album of the year, but was knocked down by like the two that are coming up. This really scratches the itch of like every like of mel when I look for melodeath. This scratches every itch that I have. Like catchy lead lines and heavy melodic riffs. People often also compare this to In Flames, what In Flames sounded like in the 90s, which I'm not entirely sure how to describe it, but they don't really sound 100% like In Flames. I guess maybe like Lunar Strain era, but not like Colony or Horacle. I compare it to more like Dark Tranquility or maybe Sacrilege. Maybe? I don't know. It doesn't really sound 100% like In Flames, but either way, this band does an amazing job at resurrecting that 90s, old school 90s melodic death metal sound. I have no complaints at all about this album. This just gives me hope for modern melodeath because there are a lot of bands that take the insomnium route. If you don't know what that means, it means like they rely more on atmosphere than like substance, which is it's fine. It's fine. Like insomnium's good, but that style gets really stale really fast, just in my opinion. And my favorite track off of this is "The World Unseen," which is one of the singles off of it. It's great, awesome. And number 2, we have "With Thorns of Glass and Petals of Grief" by Balmora. Now, you know how I said I was disappointed by some deathcore releases? This one blew everything I've heard out of the goddamn water. Like, this is hands down the best deathcore release of the year, in my opinion. This isn't an album, it's an EP, but I'm still including it on the list because literally nothing else can beat this other than the number 1 pick, of course. So, if you were nostalgic for 2000s melodic deathcore, like the first Bring Me the Horizon album or As Blood Runs Black, go listen to this right now. It'll scratch that itch. It's great. It's great. People usually call shit like this at the gates core, but it's really really good. This is a lot like this sounds a lot more raw compared to those, especially the drums, but it sounds so good. And the lead work is so fucking good. The melodies this band comes up with are so earwormy, I cannot stop listening to it sometimes. Like the stuff that brings me in is the production, the melodic riffs, and the grooves. One of the sections in An Angel's Final Prayer, like right in the middle, there's such an amazing groove section that does not fail to make me lose my shit. The highlight on this album is definitely a dagger to the heart of finality. Right from the intro, you could tell it's one of those tracks that is common in melodic like death and black metal that scream sorrow, like like the like the chord progressions that just scream like sorrow. There's no other way I can describe it that'll make sense. I mean, technically that doesn't make sense either, but unless you know what I'm talking about, then great. um, and near the end, like near the middle part, there's this harmonized like slow section. It is so catchy. It's so good, and I have nothing negative to say about the CP. It's fantastic. Go listen to it if you haven't. And before we get to our number one pick, I just want to give a quick shout out to a couple honorable mentions. Uh, One would being Astralborn, or Across the Eons by Astralborn. Great metal death album. It's also scratching that '90s itch for me. And this Azagal album, which I'm not gonna even try to pronounce that 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 title. It's great black metal. There's a lot of like med black metal I heard this year, and that was just pretty great. It also has the chainsaw tone. And I also want to shout out As Gamora Burns by Cryptopsy. Great comeback album. And Lamp of Murmur, this album. Obsess and Destruction by Chained to the Bottom of the Ocean. Great. It's like black into doom metal. It's really really good. And I think that's all I have for my shout outs, for my honorable mentions. And for number one, we have Blackbraid II by Blackbraid. Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. So, upon hearing, upon going, hearing half the album, I fucking knew that this was gonna replace Fast, that Majesties album. Like, hands down. Um, this quickly climbed up to one of my favorite black metal albums of all time. I think it's like number six. And if you didn't know, this band is completely made up of like Native Americans, and they put themes of Native American culture into their music and their lyrics. Like they play this like certain type of flute across the album. You'll hear it when you listen to the album. You'll hear it. It's very very cool. And this album has everything I ask for in melodic black metal, or just extreme melodic metal in general, like those melancholic riffs and leads and heavy riffs. In the middle section of A Song of Death on Wind and Dawn, gives me that melancholic feel, like you want to cry your eyes out. And this album reminds me of the Somberlane. You know why? Because there are like three acoustic interludes on this one, or the Somberlane by Dissection. If you didn't know what the Somberlane was, there are three acoustic interludes on here, and there are also three acoustic interludes on the Somberlane. I think that's pretty awesome because I like it when they break up like all the intensity with like these cool acoustic interludes. Yeah, so every song on here is so addicting to listen to. Even my least favorite, my least favorite is Moss Covered Bones on the Altar of the Moon, which it's not bad. It's just like some of it drags. It's like 13 minutes long. Some of it drags for me, but it's still a great song. Um, Autumnal Hearts Ablaze has an awesome melody. It's like it's the first intro track, or it's just the intro track. Has an awesome melody, and then the melody comes back with The Spirit Returns, which I absolutely love when bands do that. It's so cool. Um, a Twilight Hymn of Ancient Blood is one of those songs that is also heavy and also has a catchy line to it. Um, like near the end, they throw this like thrash-esque riff that also this very cool solo that the riff also like launches this very cool like solo. Also, did I mention that there's a Bathory cover on this album? This Bathory cover is pretty sick. It's awesome. And the only thing I could say that's bad about it, or not really bad, is just like the intro in the original song that's very eerie. Corthon is like singing it. Um, Here they do like the harsh vocals with it. It's fine, but like I prefer like the eerie sound of like him just like gently singing it. But otherwise, it's a great cover. I applaud. So that's the only critique I have for this entire thing. In conclusion, this year had some amazing albums. Great albums, fun to listen to. Just to add, I listened to over 300 albums this year. Over 300. And a lot of them were bad, a lot of them were mid, a lot of them were great, a lot of them were awesome. I had a great time this year. Um, and I'm going to be covering the worst albums I heard this year in another video. But I just figured I'd just get the positive one out because I wanted to do this one for a bit, and it's December 10th, the day of me recording this, and I'm not going to be listening to any other thing that's going to change my top 10 because I don't think anything else coming out is going to interest me enough to um be all the way up there in my top 10 for this year. So that's about it. So keep a lookout for the top 10 worst albums of the year because I will do that probably next weekend. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and this is my selection of albums for the year. So thank you.